Welcome in, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hope you all are well and hope you had a good NFL Week 9 weekend. So, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. So, we're going to go over most of the games. We're going to take a look and see who won, which players stood out and had good games. And I'm just going to give my overall take on the action from NFL Week 9. So, some specific games that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Thursday night football game where the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson got a nice win with Lamar Jackson coming back from his injury. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers getting a big win over the Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones. And we're also going to talk about the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen um, getting a huge win over the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So we got a lot of good games to talk about and go over. Before we do jump into that, I would like to mention that on my YouTube channel, I create content about money, sports, and personal topics with the goal of bringing value to other people's lives. So if you guys find value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. All right, let's go ahead and jump into NFL Week 9. All right, so things kicked off on Thursday night with Thursday night football. We had a matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and Miami Dolphins. This was in Miami Gardens. So this was a matchup of Lamar Jackson of the Ravens versus Tua Tagovailoa of the Dolphins. Pretty good game to start NFL Week 9. Lamar Jackson coming back from his injury where he missed several weeks, and they definitely wanted and needed Lamar Jackson to come back. So, pretty interesting game to check out as we see on here. It was a blowout, so the Ravens get a 28-6 win, and they improved to 3-5 on the season. So they have 2 wins in a row now, and the Dolphins fall to 2-7. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. All right. So for the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 18 for 23, 204 yards, 4 touchdowns. So a really good game by Lamar Jackson. First game back. So he had 4 total touchdowns. That's very impressive. He got some help from Derrick Henry, who had 19 carries for 119 yards. So good to see Derrick Henry get over 100 yards rushing. Zay Flowers, 5 receptions, 64 yards. Let's check out the other team. Tua, he went 25 for 40, 261 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So not a good game by Tua. He continues to struggle. Their running back Achane had 67 yards rushing, and Jalen Waddle had 82 yards receiving. All right. Yeah, so like I said, pretty solid first game of NFL Week 9 action. Um, Last week, the Baltimore Ravens were able to get a win with their backup quarterback Tyler Huntley in. And now this week, Lamar Jackson comes back. He's healthy. They get a second win in a row. They improved to 3-5. So the Ravens are looking pretty good after a rough start to the season at 1-5. They got two wins in a row, 3-5. Lamar is back, so I think the Ravens are going to definitely get on a winning streak. They should be 500, in a few weeks, and then from there, we'll see if they can catch the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are first in their division, and make things interesting. But they still have a lot of work to dig themselves out of the hole. But Lamar Jackson, 4 touchdowns. Derrick Henry ran for over 100 yards. So I'm very bullish on the Ravens for the rest of the season. I'm hoping they don't catch my Steelers since I'm rooting for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, but I want the Ravens in the playoffs, and I'm sure, well, not sure, but I think they have a solid chance of getting there. Still a full second half of the season to go. And for the Dolphins, their bad season just continues. They only score 6 points. They're 2-7 on the season. Tyreek Hill had a season-ending injury. Their quarterback is not playing very well. Their head coach is on a hot seat, so the Dolphins are headed for a very bad season with a lot of changes happening, at the end of the season, probably with their head coach, probably quarterback, and other positions. So I think these two teams are going in two very different directions the rest of the season. The Baltimore Ravens, again, I expect them to get on a winning streak and eventually make the playoffs. And their roster should stay intact, but the Dolphins are going to be having another losing season and probably with a lot of roster and coaching changes by next season. So we had a pretty unbelievable game between the Chicago Bears and the Cincinnati Bengals. So this was a matchup between Caleb Williams of the Bears and the 40-year-old plus Joe Flacco of the Bengals. And this game went down to the wire, and we can see that the Bears won 47-42. They improved to 5-3 on the season, and the Bengals dropped to 3-6. So this was probably the most exciting game of the weekend. Um, Very high scoring, a lot of offense, and I was definitely rooting for the Chicago Bears because I have some family there, and also I wanted the Bengals to lose because they're in the same division as the Pittsburgh Steelers. So now the Bengals are even further back from the Steelers. So I was definitely happy with this result. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. So for the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, he went 20 for 34, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So a very good game by Caleb Williams. His completion percentage is a little lower than what I would like to see, but he had a lot of passing yards, 280, 3 touchdowns. So still a very good game by Caleb, and he's just getting better week by week. And he's definitely grown a lot this season compared to last season. Their running back, Monongai, had 26 carries for 176 yards. So he was a big help to Caleb Williams. And the star of the game was the tight end Loveland. He had 6 receptions, 118 yards with 2 touchdowns. So a lot of offense and a lot of good numbers for the Bears. On the Bengals side, Joe Flacco, 31 for 47, 470 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, at this age, for Joe Flacco to throw 470 yards is just insane. He's honestly, he's a lot better than I was expecting this season. He started out with the Browns, but ever since he got traded to the Bengals this season, he's been such a big boost for them. He's played really well, filling in for the injured Joe Burrow. So, a lot of respect to Joe Flacco. He had 470 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's really amazing. Running back Chase Brown, 37 yards rushing, and T. Higgins had a good game, 121 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. So again, a lot of offense in this one. I was glued to the TV in this game. Pretty awesome game to watch. So in this one, um, the Bears were up by 2 touchdowns. Um, it was, I believe, 41 to 27. Um, and then the Bengals, they start to come back. They get a touchdown, and they're only down by a touchdown at that point. And they try an onside kick towards the end of the game. And somehow, with the extremely low percentage of recovery for onside kicks, somehow the Bengals are able to recover the onside kick. They drive down the field, they get a touchdown, and they go up by 1 point over the Chicago Bears, 42 to 41. So that was just kind of looking so bad for the Chicago Bears. They were up by 2 touchdowns, and it looked like they were about to lose the game, and it would have just been a heartbreaking loss for them. But Caleb Williams, he gets the ball back towards the end of the game with less than 1 minute to go. He's down 42 to 41. So even if they had got a field goal at the end, that still would have won the game for them. But Caleb Williams, he throws a big pass to the tight end Loveland. He catches it in the middle of the field. Two of the Bengals defenders try to tackle him, but they just kind of bounce off of Loveland, and he runs towards the end zone. They're not able to catch him, and the Bears get the win, 47 to 42. So it was a pretty awesome game. Just a lot of drama, a lot of ups and downs. It looked like the Chicago Bears had the game when they were up by 2 touchdowns. And then it looked like they were about to lose the game after the Bengals scored 2 touchdowns in a row. But then the Bears end up saving the game with that big play to Loveland from Williams, and they get the win. So just very, very emotional game, a lot of drama, and a lot of good play as well. So probably the most exciting game of the weekend, and I'm happy with the result. All right. So the next game we're gonna talk about is the game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. So this was a game between JJ McCarthy of the Vikings making a comeback from his injury versus Jared Goff of the Lions. So a pretty interesting quarterback matchup here. Let's Well, we can see that the Vikings got the win in this one in a close game, 27-24. They improved to 4-4 on the season, and the Lions dropped to 5-3. So I think this was a pretty big upset just because, again, it was JJ McCarthy's first game back from his injury, but he was going against the red hot Detroit Lions and Jared Goff with their amazing offense. So I think this was a pretty big upset this week in the NFL. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders on this one. For the Minnesota Vikings, JJ McCarthy, he went 14 for 25, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So just kind of an okay game for him in his return. Running back Aaron Jones had 78 yards rushing, and Jordan Addison 48 yards receiving. So he didn't get much help from his other offensive weapons. But let's see what the Lions did. Jared Goff, 25 for 37, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So a very good game by Jared Goff. David Montgomery had 40 yards rushing with a touchdown. And tight end Sam Laporta had 97 yards receiving with 1 touchdown. All right, so this is the NFL for you. You think one team is for sure or with high probability going to win the game. Like this one, you would think the Detroit Lions, who have just been amazing this season and have a pretty awesome offense, that they should get a win over the Vikings with JJ McCarthy just coming back. And this was in Detroit, but that's why they play the games, because anybody can win on any Sunday. So the Vikings, I think they're a solid team for sure. JJ McCarthy, Justin Jefferson. I like Aaron Jones out of the backfield. So they're definitely a serious threat in their division with the Bears, Lions, and Packers. I just kind of want to see JJ McCarthy continue to improve, continue to grow over the season, and be the official quarterback of the future for the Vikings. For the Lions, I think this was just kind of a bump in the road. They're still one of the best teams in the NFC. I love their offense. They have an amazing head coach. So I expect them to get back on track and start stacking some wins back up again. So the biggest upset of this weekend was probably the game between the Carolina Panthers and the Green Bay Packers. So this was matchup between Bryce Young of the Panthers and Jordan Love of the Packers. So the Carolina Panthers are considered to be not a very good team, but heading into this game, they were 4-4. So, their record would say that they're pretty good. So, but nonetheless, the Packers were 5-1-1 going into this game, and they were considered a heavy favorite and one of the best teams in the NFC. But they fall to the Panthers in this one, 13-16. The Panthers have a pretty good record at 5-4, and the Packers fall to 5-2-1. So a big upset here, but if you actually look at the the record, Carolina has been very solid the whole year, so maybe not the biggest upset that we all should have thought going into this one. But let's take a look and see some of the game leaders in this one. Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, 11 for 20, only 102 yards, zero touchdowns, one interception. So I don't know how they won this game with Bryce Young playing so poorly. Yeah, that's just not going to get it done. 102 yards, no touchdowns, one interception. Their running back Dowdle had a pretty good game, though. He had 25 carries for 130 yards with two touchdowns. And their rookie wide receiver McMillan had 46 yards receiving. For the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love went 26 for 37, 273 yards, zero touchdowns, one interception. So, I mean, that's a good completion percentage, over 70%, and the yardage is good. But obviously, zero touchdowns and one interception is not good. Josh Jacobs, 17 carries, 87 yards with a touchdown. Romeo Dobbs had 91 yards receiving. Yeah, so just some more thoughts on these two teams and this game. Um, I think, me and other people, we think the Carolina Panthers they seem to be like one of the worst teams in the NFL, like the Saints, like the Jets, um, like the Giants. But again, heading into this game, they had a 500 record, 4-4, so that's pretty good. And I don't think they're in the same category as the worst teams in the NFL that I mentioned: the Saints, Jets, Giants. I think they're in a tier above them. So I think we gotta take the Panthers a bit more seriously. Um, they got a chance to make the playoffs. Bryce Young, he had a bad game in this one, but he's played okay this season. So I think their future looks bright, and they still have a solid chance for a successful, potentially playoff season. But on the other side, for the Packers, it's just very hard to predict how they're going to play, and specifically Jordan Love. Like last week, they had an amazing game against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, and they look like the best team in the NFC, maybe the NFL. Jordan Love is on fire. Everything's just clicking. And then this week, Jordan Love plays poorly. They have a season-ending injury to their tight end Kraft, and things just look very different this week. So it's just amazing how from one week to the next, the outlook for a team can change so much. Last week, you would have said the Green Bay Packers are going to be in the Super Bowl, and this week you would say like they might not make the playoffs. So it's just very volatile play week to week for the Packers, um, and specifically Jordan Love. I don't think he's one of the upper tier quarterbacks. I know a lot of people like Jordan Love and thinks he's one of the best quarterbacks, and they think that the Packers made the right decision by moving on from Aaron Rodgers to go with Jordan Love. I don't think that was the right decision at that time. I think Aaron Rodgers was still better than Jordan Love these last few years, but he is a good quarterback overall. Jordan Love is, but he's just got to be more consistent going forward. All right. So the game that I was most excited about watching was the big matchup between the Indianapolis Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this was Daniel Jones of the Colts versus Aaron Rodgers of the Steelers. You had the 7-1 Colts, who have looked like the best team in the NFL with surprisingly amazing quarterback play by Daniel Jones, go against the 40 plus year old Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers defense, who's been struggling. So, a lot of headlines, a lot of intrigue going into this game. And it was definitely an exciting game that did not disappoint. As we can see, the Steelers pull out the win 27-20. They improved to 5-3 on the season, and the Colts fall to 7-2. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. For the Indianapolis Colts, Daniel Jones, he went 31 for 50, 342 yards, one touchdown. He had three interceptions. So, not the best game by Daniel Jones. His yardage is impressive, but him throwing 50 times in a game is just too much for Daniel Jones. Um, the three interceptions, some of them were like tipped balls, but some of them were his mistakes. So, kind of a all over the place game by Daniel Jones um, in this game. Running back Jonathan Taylor, he only had 45 yards rushing, and their wide receiver Pierce had 115 yards receiving. On the other side, for the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, he went 25 for 35, 203 yards, one touchdown, zero interceptions. So a very Aaron Rodgers like game, very efficient, got just enough yardage, 200 plus, one touchdown, no picks, didn't have any turnovers. So a very typical Aaron Rodgers game, efficient, simple, and that works for Aaron Rodgers at his age now. Running back Warren had 31 yards rushing with two touchdowns, and Austin had 56 yards receiving. All right, so yeah, again, this was definitely the game that I was most excited about watching just because I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan and rooting for the Steelers this year because of that. And the Colts playing really well this season. Daniel Jones having an incredible resurrection in his career. So it was definitely an intriguing game to watch. Um, so in this one, the Colts took an early lead, 7-0, but the Steelers they kind of started to pick it up. Um, their defense forced five turnovers in this game, so incredible job by the defense and the the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers were able to capitalize off of those turnovers. They scored touchdowns a couple different times, so that was a big deal as well. And towards the end, the Colts they try to make a comeback, but the Steelers were able to keep them off, and they get the win. So I'm very happy for the Steelers as a Aaron Rodgers and thus Steelers fan. This was a big win to go up 5-3 to avoid a three-game losing streak. Um, the Bengals, who are in their division, lost, so now they're further back from the Steelers. So this was, potentially a season-altering game for the Steelers, and they got a big win over a very good team. And Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I think he's the might be the biggest positive surprise for the Steelers as a whole this season. Like he's playing very efficiently. He's throwing touchdowns. He's not turning the ball over. He's a very good teammate. There's like no drama, no nothing negative, but the other parts of his team, like the defense is struggling and some of his other offensive weapons maybe are not playing the best, but none of the blame can go on Aaron Rodgers. He's really having a good season. I'm very happy for him. And I think he's just going to continue this. Um, they're going to have some tougher opponents going forward. They're going to face the Ravens a couple different times. So that's going to be tough. But I like what I see from the Steelers overall. I hope that they win the division. Hope that they make the playoffs and Aaron Rodgers makes some noise in the playoffs. So they just got to have a good second half of the regular season, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs. All right, so the next game we're going to talk about is the matchup between the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams. So this was a matchup between the rookie quarterback Tyler Shough versus the veteran Matt Stafford. So the Rams get a big win and blow out the Saints 34-10. The Rams improved to 6-2 on the season, and the Saints are 1-8. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. For the Saints, Tyler Shough, he went 15 for 24, 176 yards, one touchdown, one interception. Taysom Hill had 30 yards rushing, and Rashid Shaheed had 68 yards receiving. For the Rams, Matt Stafford, he went 24 for 32, 281 yards. He had four touchdowns with zero interceptions. So, a very good game by Matt Stafford. Running back Kyron Williams had 114 yards rushing with a touchdown. And Puka Nakua had 95 yards receiving with one touchdown. So, very different offensive games by these teams. For the Saints, nobody really contributed. For the Rams, all of their main players contributed in this one, and they get a big win. So, not too much more to say about these two teams. The Saints are one of the worst teams in the NFL, only one win on the season. On the other hand, the Rams are playing well. They're having a good season. Matt Stafford, four touchdowns in this game. I think he might be the front runner for MVP this season. And the Rams are looking really good. They're very consistent every week, and they're one of the best teams in the NFC. So we have the Philadelphia Eagles, Detroit Lions, Los Angeles Rams. Those are probably the three best teams in the NFC. So the Rams are just going to keep doing their thing. They have an awesome head coach, awesome quarterback. So not much more to say on this one. So we had a pretty amazing game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders that went to overtime. So this was a matchup between Trevor Lawrence of the Jaguars versus Geno Smith of the Raiders. And this game definitely did not disappoint. In the end, the Jags get the win 30-29. They improved to 5-3 on the season, and the Raiders fall to 2-6. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this game. For the Jags, Trevor Lawrence went 23 for 34, 220 yards, zero touchdowns, one interception. Travis Etienne had 84 yards rushing, and PJ Washington had 90 yards receiving. So, just some thoughts on Trevor Lawrence. Every time I watch him, like he's always driving the ball down the field and everything looks good. And just when you're about to say, like, he's such an amazing quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, he, in those key moments, like in this game, he throws an interception in the end zone when they're about to score. And he just kind of makes these big mistakes in these crucial moments of the game. And it's just kind of hard to judge his game. Again, he drives the ball down the field. His throws look beautiful. The offense is smooth and everything. And then just, when they're about to make a game changing play like a touchdown or whatever, he has this interception or a random fumble, and it just kind of derails the whole drive that the offense just had. So Trevor Lawrence is just kind of like a hard quarterback to judge. He's kind of very frustrating because you want to love his game and have him as your starting quarterback, but he just makes these mistakes that are crucial. So they were able to get the win in this one, but I did not like that interception for sure. Um, let's go over to the Raiders side. So Geno Smith, 29 for 39, 284 yards, four touchdowns, one interception. So that's a pretty good game by Geno there. Ashton Genty had 42 yards rushing, and their tight end Bowers had 127 yards receiving with three touchdowns. So he had a really good game. So just some more thoughts on these two teams. So for the Jags, I mean, I think they're just kind of like a middle of the road team. Um, they have a pretty good record at 5-3. I think any team would take that record midway through the season. Um, I do like Trevor Lawrence, but I don't trust him in the big moments, in the big games like playoffs. I like their running back, Travis Etienne. They have a lot of different offensive weapons like PJ Washington, Brian Thomas Jr. Their defense is solid. So I just think they're a solid middle of the road team, but I wouldn't ride with them in the playoffs and expect them to go deep in the playoffs. For the Raiders, 2-6 on the season, kind of a disappointing season. Um, I think some people had hope with Pete Carroll, but I'm not a big believer in their quarterback, Geno Smith. I think he's a bottom tier quarterback, like a backup. But he had a good game in this one. So I think the Raiders aren't really not going to go anywhere this season, but we'll see if I'm wrong. So the most anticipated game of the whole weekend was definitely the matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills. So this was probably the two best quarterbacks in the NFL going head to head. Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs versus Josh Allen of the Bills. This was their 10th head to head matchup. and it definitely did not disappoint. So we can see that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills were able to hold off Mahomes and the Chiefs. They get a 28-21 win. The Bills improved to 6-2 on the season. The Chiefs fall to 5-4, and Mahomes and Allen have played each other a total of 10 times now, and each of them has 5 wins apiece. For Josh Allen, his 5 wins against Patrick Mahomes, they all have come in the regular season. And for Mahomes, his 5 wins over Allen, 4 of them are in the playoffs, and one is in the regular season. So even though they're 5-5 versus each other, I think Mahomes has definitely outplayed Allen because four of his 5 wins come in the playoffs. So that's when it matters. So let's take a look and see some of the game leaders in this one. Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 15 for 34, 250 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. So a bad game by Patrick Mahomes. His completion percentage is only 44%. So that's very, very rare for him. He didn't have any touchdowns. So definitely a one-off game by Patrick Mahomes. The Bills defense definitely made him uncomfortable and made him hurry the whole game. Kareem Hunt had 49 yards rushing with a touchdown, and Rashee Rice had 80 yards receiving. On the other side, Josh Allen, 23 for 26, 88% completion percentage, 273 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. So Josh had a really good game. He outplayed Mahomes in this particular game for sure. And as a result, Josh Allen's MVP odds went up meaningfully. So that's good to see if you're a Josh Allen over Mahomes fan. James Cook had a good game, 27 carries, 114 yards. Dalton Kincaid, 101 yards receiving with 1 touchdown. All right, let's talk more about these two teams and this game. So the Bills took the lead initially 7-0. And then in the second quarter, it was definitely evenly matched. The Bills scored 14 points. The Chiefs scored 13. In the third quarter, the Bills got another touchdown and they went up. And then in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs were definitely trying to make a comeback. They scored a touchdown and went for a 2-point conversion, which they got. And towards the very end of the game, they still had an opportunity with less than a minute left to go down the field and score a game-tying touchdown. But the Bills' defense was able to hold off Mahomes. They batted the ball down on the very last play for the Chiefs, and they get the win. So good win by the Bills and Josh Allen, but it is just the regular season. It seems like, and as the record showed earlier, when these two guys go against each other in the regular season, Josh Allen outplays Mahomes and gets the win, which definitely matters, and in this case helps Josh Allen's MVP odds. But when the playoffs come, I'm definitely gonna pick Mahomes over Josh Allen, just based on history and just the eyeball test, you know, I'll take Mahomes in the playoffs over anybody. Just some more thoughts for the Chiefs. I mean, they have all of their offensive weapons back, like Rasheed Rice, Xavier Worthy. They've been back for a few weeks now, but their running game is not very good with Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco. So I'm not sure if they can make some moves there and improve their running game. Um, for the Buffalo Bills, I mean, I think they pretty much got what they need. It would be nice for them to get like a wide receiver to help out Josh Allen even more. Um, that's the only thing I can think of for the Bills, but these are the two best teams in the AFC, two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and hopefully we get to see them go against each other in the playoffs. The last game that we're going to talk about is the game that's going to be played tonight on Monday Night Football. So we're going to have the Arizona Cardinals go against the Dallas Cowboys. This is going to be Jacoby Brissett of the Cardinals, who's in for the injured Kyler Murray, go against Dak Prescott of the Cowboys. So, not the most exciting game for sure. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to be watching this game. But on the right here, the win probability Cowboys have a 62% chance, Cardinals 38%. So, this game is going to be played in Arlington and Dallas, Texas. So Cowboys are the home team. I mean, I think it's reasonable to expect that the Cowboys should win this game. They're the home team. Their quarterback is better, but the Cowboys' defense has been bad all season. So that's a concern for the Cardinals. Backup quarterback in Jacoby Brissett, but some of the other guys might step up, and the Cardinals' defense might step up. So personally, I don't have much interest in this game, but I expect and think the Dallas Cowboys are going to win. But we'll see what happens tonight. Before we wrap things up for today, let's go ahead and take a look at the standings in the NFL after week 9. So we still have the Monday night football game tonight. So this isn't 100%, but it's close enough. So let's go ahead and start in the AFC, specifically AFC East. Patriots looking good at 7-2. Bills just got a big win over the Chiefs. They're 6-2. So both of these teams are playing well and should be in the playoffs. And looks like the Patriots have a 6-game winning streak, which is really impressive. So I think a lot of people thought the Bills would for sure win this division, but the Patriots are making it difficult for the Bills, and we'll see who wins the division at the end. AFC North, Pittsburgh Steelers 5-3, Ravens. They have Lamar Jackson back. They just got 2 wins in a row. They're 3-5. Bengals 3-6. Browns 2-6. Honestly, I think it's safe to say that the Bengals and Browns are going to be out. So it's going to be a competition between the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, and the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, for this division. Um, so it looks like, right now they have a 2-game lead. So the Steelers should win this division unless they just fall off and the Ravens just catch fire. But I'm definitely rooting for the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, and hopefully they can hold off the Ravens for the rest of the season and win this AFC North division. AFC South, Colts 7-2. They just lost to the Steelers. Jags 5-3. They just got to win. Texans and Titans are not going anywhere this season, so the Colts should win this division. The Jags, I don't believe in them as far as like catching up to the Colts, but they still might make the playoffs. AFC West, this one's tough. Broncos are 7-2, Chargers 6-3, Chiefs 5-4. I think it's safe to say that the Raiders are going to be out. They're not going to make the playoffs at 2-6. So it'll be a tough division. I mean, the Chiefs, I think, are the best team, but they just had a big loss to the Bills. Broncos are playing really well. Chargers and Justin Herbert are playing well. So tough division. I think the Chiefs will win it at the end, but not sure. Let's jump over to the NFC. NFC East, Eagles at 6-2 should win this division. The other three teams should be out. NFC North, also tough division to predict. Packers just had a horrible loss to the Panthers. Lions also lost. The Bears got a win. The Minnesota Vikings are 4-4. So I don't know. This one's tough. I think the best team in this division is the Detroit Lions, but as the records show, anybody can win this division. NFC South, my hometown, Tampa Bay Buccaneers in first place, 6-2. Surprisingly, the Carolina Panthers have a really good record at 5-4, but I don't think they're going to be able to catch the Bucks. So the Bucks should win this one. And finally, NFC West, also a very tough division. The Cardinals are out. They're the worst team in the division, but the Seahawks, Rams, 49ers, all really good teams. Anybody can win it. I think the Rams are the best team in the division. So we'll see if they win it at the end. All right, guys. So that's all I wanted to cover for NFL Week 9. I hope you guys liked this content and got some value out of it. If you did, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.